Hi everyone, and welcome to Expressions and Equations, Lesson A, Topic 1, Expressions versus Equations. In this video, we are going to focus on learning goal number 1, distinguish between expressions and equations, and recognize the role of the equal sign in solving equations. If you're feeling nervous, please don't be, because you've already got this. You use algebra more than you think. Let's look at some examples of algebraic expressions in the everyday world. So, the first example is a plumber charges $60 per hour plus a one-time $30 service fee. If we were to write this as an algebraic expression, we would have 60x plus 30, where 60 represented the amount he made per hour, x represents the unknown number of hours that he has worked, and 30 represents the $30 service fee. The next example, a patient is prescribed 5 milligrams of medication per kilogram of body weight. If we were to write an algebraic expression to represent this situation, we would have 5K, where 5 represented the 5 milligrams of medication, and K represented the body weight of the patient. But we don't know how much the patient weighed or how many kilograms they are, so it's represented with K. Lastly, you pay a $15 entry fee at the fair and then an additional $4 per ride. If we were to write an algebraic expression for that, we would have 15 plus 4x, where 15 was the entry fee plus the $4 per ride, and we don't know how many rides we're going to go on yet. So what makes these expressions versus equations? Well, let's look at some examples of what if these were equations instead of expressions? What would it take? So the first example, a plumber charges $60 per hour plus a $30 service fee. The total bill was $210. If we were to write an algebraic equation to represent this situation, we would have 60x plus 30 equals 210, where 60, again, represented the $60 per hour, x represents the unknown number of hours, plus the $30 service fee. But this time, we have a total bill that is equal to $210. So we could actually use this information to solve this equation to find out how many hours the plumber actually worked. Before, there was no way to find that information out. It was just basically the expression that represented how much he charged per job, basically. But this over here, we're able to find out how many hours he works, and there would be no unknowns after we solved it. Let's look at the second example. A patient was prescribed 5 milligrams of medicine per kilogram of body weight. The total dose was 1,055 milligrams. If we were to write that as an algebraic equation, we would have 5K equals 1,055. Now, we could actually use this equation to find out how much the patient weighed. Last example, you paid $15 to enter the fair and $4 per ride. You spent $59 in total. If we were to write an equation to represent this situation, we would have 15 plus 4x equals 59, where 15 represents the entry fee, and the 4 represents the $4 per unknown amount of rides, but we do know we spent a total of 59. Because we now have this equal sign and a total, we could solve this equation to find out how many rides we went on. So let's talk about the main difference. You may have already figured out what the main difference is between expressions versus equations, but if you haven't, keep watching. What's the difference? Expressions. An expression is a group of numbers, variables, and operation symbols that shows a mathematical relationship but does not have an equal sign. Expressions cannot be solved. They can be evaluated or simplified. So expressions can be numerical, just numbers. For example, 4 plus 7 minus 2 times 5. Now some of you might argue and say, hey, you can solve that. Only if you put an equal sign, and if you put what that equals, you've now made an equation. This is just something that we could evaluate at this point. Expressions can also be algebraic, and these are, at this point, the ones that we're going to be focused on in this class. Algebraic expressions always include variables. For example, 3x plus 5. Equations, on the other hand, an equation is a mathematical statement that compares two expressions using an equal sign. It shows that the value of one side is the same as the value on the other side. Equations can be solved. Equations can also be numerical, like 12 equals 6 plus 6, or algebraic, like 3x plus 5 equals 11. So the main difference between expressions and equations is the fact that equations have equal signs and expressions do not, and equations can be solved. Expressions can only be evaluated. Equations can be solved because of the equal sign. And like I said before, yes, you might be able to find a value for this, but the moment you put equals a number, you are working with an equation. Okay? This by itself is just an expression. So let's do some practice. If you would like, you could pause the video and complete this as a drag and drop activity in the student version of the slides. You also are free to keep watching. So expressions versus equations. What we're going to do is sort these examples into the right column based on what it is. So 3x minus 4y. Do we see an equal sign? No, we do not. So that is an algebraic expression. 5 equals 7y plus 6. Oh, there's an equal sign. So that means it's an algebraic equation. 4x. Boy, that looks like a little expression, but it's still an expression because there's no equal sign. An algebraic expression at that, because we have a number and a variable. 7x equals 14. That is an algebraic equation because it has an equal sign. And last but not least, 8y squared minus 5 equals 27 is also an algebraic equation because of the equal sign. Thank you for watching this video.